I'm sure you all know them, but I'd like to introduce from the left Mr. Stephen Bree, who's the Chief Executive, Mervyn Bolson is our Vice Chairman, Kevin Nicholson, I'm sure you all know, is our new manager. This is David Phillips, our Chairman. Sat next to David is Mel Heyman, who deals with our finance. And then we have Harry Kurzweil, one of our directors, his lovely wife Jill Kurzweil, another director, and Val Bolson at the end, who's another director.
Well, thanks very much for the applause as we walked in. We didn't really expect that tonight, to be honest. Seeing the position we're in the league, and things have not been going that great, but yeah, we really appreciate that. I mean, the last time we walked in, there was massive applause, and you know, it's not looking that good at the moment. But I'm sure tonight we'll answer some of your queries, questions, and it's great to welcome our new player manager, Kevin Nicholson. So things have been, you know, we've had troubled times up here, but you know, we're looking forward to the future. So fire any questions you like. We'll do our best to answer them. I'll hand over to Rob, who's our club secretary.
Isn't it really? Well, first of all, it's lovely to see Kevin back. You were my favourite, and when you went, my favourite became Aaron Downs. And the first thing I would like to ask the board is, I understand the reason why Aaron Downs is not with us, but I feel although we've got some very good defenders at our club, the new captain being one of them, we haven't got the guile and the experience and the know-how to actually defend as we should be defending. And I'm just wondering how the board could think that we could improve upon that. And the other thing I would quickly like to say is, I don't know whether anybody's read what Mike Bateson has said very recently, and his offers of advice or help. He ran a tight ship, and he broke even or he made a small profit. So he must have got something right over the years, and I just wondered whether anybody would like to comment on that.
Thank you very much for that question. Yeah, I think as far as Mike Bateson, yeah, I read that thing in the Herald. Very interesting, and I do intend to pay him a visit.
Already done. I actually spoke to Dave today. I spoke to Mike today.
Okay, yeah, well, I'll still pay him a visit anyway, probably. Thanks for that. But as far as in the black, that's exactly where we intend to go. And I've said before that when we took over this club, we were in a bad state financially, but we're going in the right direction. And by the end of the season, we know we will be in a better position financially than we started. Obviously, as things go on, we're tightening the ship in every direction we can. So ultimately, yeah, we want to be in the black so then we can move forward. As far as the thing about Aaron Downs, I totally appreciate what you say. Yeah, we do miss him. He's gone off to Cheltenham, which was before our regime, and I think we would have probably kept him if we were in charge then.
Well, I'm glad I was your favourite, thank you. To be honest, that's partly why I'm here. I'm here as player manager. You know, I came to the game against Boreham. It cries out that we need a little bit of experience. But at the same time, and I've said it a few times already, there's some very talented young players in there, and they just need a little bit of guidance, and they just need a little bit showing what's expected. You know, they looked at me on Monday, and they looked like you're walking into a youth team. But in fairness, their attitudes look like a group of players that want to learn. You know, they just need showing the way. So I'll give them a chance to do that. You know, obviously Angus is now captain, and he's been a good player for a few years now. But I'm hoping that will really kick him on. And although he's only 22, he's played plenty of games, so he should be able to hold things together back there. You know, I'll come in and help if the manager picks me. But yeah, you know, I agree. I know exactly what you're saying, but I would be a hypocrite if I didn't give these lads a chance to listen to what I'm going to tell them, try and carry out what I show them. And if they do, they'll be fine, because they're all athletes, they're all pretty strong, they're quite a big group, they're just young. Everybody in here knows what the club means to me. And it's right, you know, we talked about it. I've got no experience as a manager, but I've got 20 years experience in football. You know, I've been in hundreds and hundreds of team talks with some very good managers and some not very good ones. And I've been gleaning everything I can from that. I'm very open-minded. I want to learn all I can, but I think probably the biggest strength I'll have is I can relate to those players. and I think I can manage them, manage them. And so, you know, they all know how to play football. They're all professionals, or you know, or they wouldn't be here. So all I need to do is get them enjoying it again and stop seeing it like it's so full of pressure. It's a game of football. If they go out and enjoy it, then they'll do all right, and then you lot will enjoy it that little bit more as well.
It's one really for Steve, which then has a knock-on for Kevin, and it's about the Players' Fund. I'm sure a lot of us in this room contribute to it. Could you give us an update on it, please? Is there anything left in it? And will there be, then that goes across to Mel, I suppose, and everybody else, some finance for new players?
Yeah, I can answer that. We haven't touched the Players' Fund whatsoever so far, and currently there's £8,552 in it. We haven't touched it at all so far.
Again, it's something that I've said a few times lately. Again, going off experience, when we had that terrible start in Martin Ling's first season, he came out in the press, and he was that powerful that I remember the headline now. He came out and he said the answers are in the building. Now, I can't go out in front of them players like I did on Monday and tell them that they've got a fresh start, and then immediately go and bring 4 or 5 players in. It's great to know that, because to be honest, I didn't. I should have probably asked that question before I signed. But, you know, they've got a fresh start. There's good players there. I don't think you've seen the best of some of them at all. And they'll be given a little bit of time to prove that they're as good as what I think they can be. Having said that, you can't be naive. You're always going to have your eyes open for things that are going on. And within 2 days of being in the job, people keep ringing me and offering me players. So, yeah, I'll look at that later down the line. But there's no way I'm going to say things to the players and then go against that. They need to know that I'm as straight as what I'm telling them. And I've got to back up, you know, what I tell them. So, good to know. But right now, I appreciate that you've managed to raise that much money. But I'll keep that on the back burner.
There are quite a few clubs in this division which apparently manage, or they don't appear to be in crisis. They manage on gates of far less than we have. We get hopefully somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000, and on a good day maybe a few more. There are clubs though that regularly get gates of less than that. They don't seem to be in crisis. So either they have other means of support other than the money coming through the turnstiles, or they have a lower cost base. And I don't expect you to reveal any sensitive information or specific examples, but it would be nice to have some sort of reassurance that there are plans and discussions going on which might raise the revenue coming into the club other than through the turnstiles, or reduce the cost base somehow, because clubs like Guiseley and others and so on do manage on much lower gates than we do. So just, you know, is there a plan, or are you working on one? Thanks.
Basically what happens when you're a conference club is totally different to a league club. When we've got to apply to be a conference club, which I think I did in around April, May time, June, and basically the conference, because obviously there's been clubs in the conference, as you all know, that have gone out of business. The conference's main concern is that a club that starts the conference season can finish a season. Basically what I had to do is give them a budget of all our income from all sources and our expenses and how we're going to fund that gap. Obviously the conference approved it, and they've got belief that we'll, you know, see the season through, or else they wouldn't have let us join. You mentioned other clubs that don't have the fan base. They have good beneficiaries that will put in thousands and thousands and thousands, you know, lottery winners, multi-billion businesses. You know, as Torquay we haven't. We've got a small board, but they're all committed, they've all pledged their money, and the conference are happy with us, or else we wouldn't have been approved league status. I mean, obviously, from a budget point of view, we've made some really tough cuts, and I've got to applaud the board because they've made some really tough decisions that haven't been liked. I mean, I've been here 17 years. You know, I've been here with the Mike years, I've been here with the old board, and I'm here with the new board. Been here numerous managers, and managers' boards change, but Torquay United goes on. Yes, we would like more income, you know, more sponsors that come in. Any more income, obviously, the goal isn't to make a profit as a club. The goal is to be the best club that Torquay United can be. And obviously, if we make a run, the idea is to give Kevin the money to build us a better Torquay United. And the dream of this board is to be self-sufficient, sustainable, and to give Torquay United the best chance it has in the league. And obviously promotion and to be back where we belong.
We've spoke quite a lot about community, and it was a big thing when I came in for my interview that I talked about. Obviously, here as a player from 2007, and it got to the point really where people used to just approach myself and Lee Mansell to go and do charity things or give awards out to kids or all that kind of thing, because the channels weren't there, the links between the community weren't there. The club as a whole used to take without giving. So yeah, I know the support's there. There was a 3,000 average the first season I was here, and we've been through a credit crunch, so it's not as simple as that. But what I've got to do, as well as making sure that we win out there, is start going out into the community and giving back a little before we can start asking. I don't think it's right for us to just go out there and tell people that we really need money, so come and watch us. I need to give a reason why. So, and this is part of it. We will have a plan on how we're going to rebuild a few bridges out there, and I'll be a big part of it, along with some of the help that I've got alongside me. And we'll go out there, we'll rebuild some goodwill, we'll start giving back. You know, you've got 20 footballers, and you take a footballer into a school and see a group of kids and take a PE lesson or whatever it might be. They don't really care if it's Wayne Rooney or Angus MacDonald. You know, they're just delighted that there's a footballer there. So we need to use those resources to build that goodwill again. We need to show people a reason to come back here. You know, I came to the game on Tuesday against Boreham Wood before I knew I had the job as a I suppose a scouting mission for the team and also for what was going on. And I said this in my interview. I came up, and like most fans, they kind of ambled in at 20 minutes before the game. They came in. I didn't think the music was great. As daft as it sounds, you know, I didn't think the music was particularly great. The team came out to no real fanfare in terms of, you know, a song that might get them going or anything like that. Game kicked off, didn't go to plan. At half time, the entertainment was some poor fella trying to hit a crossbar 3 times that he blatantly couldn't reach. More depressing music. The game still didn't go quite to plan. And then everybody trudged off, and you all paid best part of 20 quid for that privilege. So what I've got to do in the short, medium and long term is make a match day an experience. So, you know, if you look at how the Americans do it, for instance, you know, I'd like to think that given a bit of time, I can get people coming here an hour or two before the game, having a drink, having a few activities out there for the children, talking about the good times, talking about the bad times, having a laugh, coming in. You know, I'm not going to ever be able to guarantee wins, but I can pretty much guarantee that given time I'll have a team out there that will never know when they're beat. And then at least you guys can pay your money and leave thinking you've had a good experience for the day. So that's the plan. That's what I've got in mind. First and foremost, got to go out there and win a few games. But, you know, it's not just, me getting this job isn't just one of these guys that's fallen into it because he's been a footballer and he doesn't know anything else. You know, I've thought long and hard about why I went for this, and given the right support which I've got here, and the support in the community that have already come out and asked me if they can help and donated their time and their resources for nothing, you know, I think we'll get something good going, and I think we will get the good times back.
Excellent. Long-term plans. What will success look like for you at the end of this season?
Success is just going to be winning games. That's first and foremost. But everything that I've just said there, I've got to plant those seeds. So I can't expect people to throw sponsorship at the club just because I say that I'm going to do things. I've got to go out and do them, and I've got to start. So I'll go out there. You know, obviously this week's been mental. You know, phone calls, messages, emails, this, that and the other. All stuff that you're not totally aware of as just a player. But it's been great fun. The lads have been great. I've got to prove to the lads that I am what I say I am, because they're all wary. As you are the new manager, they've heard a lot of the same things. And unfortunately in football a lot of things get said and not as much gets done. So I've got to live up to what I'm saying, I'm aware of that. So at the end of this season, we've climbed the league, we've got people out there cheering, we've maybe got a few coming back through the gate because they see what we're trying to achieve. And yeah, basically the beginning of something that, you know, without being too much of a dreamer, if you look at what Dario Gradi's done at Crewe, then something along those lines. It'd be great to have a youth system back in the future. It'd be great to give hope to the kids out there that, you know, they can be a Mike Williamson or a Ewan O'Kane type that comes up as a young player and gets sold on for hundreds of thousands and goes and plays in the Premier League. So yeah, you know, short-term goal is win, and then the rest of it we'll plant those seeds, and hopefully I'll be around to see it all come to fruition.
On behalf of Torquay United Supporters Trust, Kevin, I understand that you've joined and become number 401 member today, so a warm welcome to Tust. Thanks very much, and I very much welcome on behalf of Tust the comments you made there about community, getting engaged with community, involved and getting the support of the community by giving something back. I think very much welcome that, and we're very keen to work with you and the board on developing that strategy for the future. Can I say that Tust remains fully committed to supporting the current board. We've had some very constructive dialogue and meetings recently. We are totally at one in working with you to help the club to not only survive but to thrive in the long term, to become sustainable. And to that end, in the future we're going to be coming forward with some proposals which we're going to run by the board and hopefully work with you, so we're not going off in different directions, which is always a danger of that. We're fully supportive. We are independent, of course, and we reserve the right to provide constructive criticism and comment, but we are very keen to continue in building our very good working relationship and also working with the board, as I say, in the coming weeks to come out for a strategy for the future from which we can build this club. Without working together, we'll get nowhere. So, you know, we've got several Tust members on the board, so we're at one. And as I say, we hope to come up with some very promising proposals in the future, which we'll be discussing with our members in terms of making sure that Torquay United exists not only in the short term but also in the long term.
Yeah, thank you for that, Robin. I just think I need to clear this up with people. There was a slight communication breakdown between myself, the board, and the trust, which was ironed out very quickly. I'd just like to place on record my thanks to Tust. They've been brilliant. I've had some really, really good conversation today. There was another meeting with them about formulating a plan going forward as one. There's no them and us. We are all Torquay United at the end of the day, and I said I applaud the Tust. I'm a member of Tust myself, and I always will be a member of Tust, and the work they're doing is absolutely invaluable for this football club. They're working very much alongside us to the greater good of this club, so there won't be any more, as we hope. There'll probably be differences of opinions, but there certainly won't be public spats or anything like that. And I've generally going forward, I think this, you know, community-based thing is something we have to work on, because at the end of the day, this is a community football club, whatever way we want to do it. Might have private ownership as we sit here right now, but community is the way to go forward, and we need to embrace that, every one of us.
A few years ago, we used to have a situation where after a match, all players would come up to the bar and meet the fans and what have you. You'd have the presentation for the man of the match up there with the sponsors, match sponsors and that. And that was a great thing, you know. During that time, there were lots of local businesses and what have you used to donate money, or I think at the time it was a bottle of whiskey a week, and you have a draw for the whiskey, a draw or what have you. And we contributed with a lot of money was raised for certain things. Are you looking to be able to continue doing something like that?
Yeah, regarding the player support, win, lose or draw, every one of us will be up in the bars after. It's tough sometimes, you know, like obviously you've lost a game at home, things haven't quite gone to plan. You know, it's tough for a young lad to face up a fan, they don't quite know what to say. But this is what we're after. We're after these guys maturing And so that's what we're going to, I guarantee they'll run up there when you've won a game and they all get patted on the back and told how great they are. But yeah, we need to do that. We need, those players they're out there to win football matches, but they're also a resource, and there's something, a group of people that can help in the community, help up here. Just people like to chat and people like to ask them their opinions and all the rest of it, and they're going to have to mature to be able to do that when somebody's asking them what the hell they did to let that goal in or whatever it might be. So yeah, you'll have the players up here from now on after every game. Obviously the chairman was talking about something that he saw regarding the man of the match. Whoever gets that will be sent up before they get changed. So there's more people to actually see them get it, because in the past, you go into the changing rooms, you might have lost a game, the manager shouts and screams at you for 20 minutes, and then by the time you get up here, there's no one here to see you get man of the match anyway. So we'll send the player up straight away so that the bar's full and he can take it and explain what went right or what went wrong. And then the lads will all come in due course. But yeah, that will be my plan from now on.
Yeah, just to say, we actually have been pushing the players to do that all season, and unfortunately it hasn't been happening, but we've got all the faith in Kevin that he will get that going again. There is a whiskey draw that does go round.
They'll be fined if they don't.
There is a draw that goes round. I mean, Anne and a few others will go round with it. Lorraine does as well. And they do that draw every week. It's been going on for quite a while, actually. So a lot of what you're talking about still does happen, but we need to just smarten it up. And the biggest thing is going to be getting the player, the man of the match, up as soon as he's had his bollocking, up straight away, because a number of us have been to other clubs, and that's the one thing that's impressed us at other clubs, since we've been directors, going around and seeing those clubs that do that very, very quickly while the people are still in the bar. It actually holds them in the bar as well, and we make more money. So thank you.
Okay, everybody. I'd just like to thank the board for everything they did when I sponsored the match. It was brilliant, and there's nothing more I can say. If you want to sponsor the match, you'll get the best match day experience ever. Now, Kevin, you must have been here when I tried getting the crossbar. I hit the corner flag. Right? Now then, you have got a poison chalice because, okay, we've had a bit of a rough time in the league. We got the FA Trophy and FA Cup to go, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
Right, hello, yeah, this is for the board again, really. This is touching on what we talked about, really, the commercial side, and concerning actually after the game. Now, I know we've managed to get this bar open here at half-time. After the game, it's shut. And I know for a fact that a lot of people would like to come here and spend the money in Torquay United rather than going down to the Union or downstairs. The problem we had, I think it was the England game a few weeks ago. There was lots of people who wanted to stay after the game to watch the England game in here, and it was shut. People trying to get in next door. There's a lot of people in there, admittedly, but this is a good area which should be open, I think, after the game. I don't know why. Well, I would like to know why it can't happen, actually.
The reason why the bar wasn't open is that we have functions, unfortunately, on some Saturday evenings, and this Saturday's another one. At 5 o'clock, they're coming in to redecorate the room for a function that's already been booked. Other than that, there's no reason why it can't be open, unless Kevin has his players in and the away team comes to eat. That's been another job that we've had to do. So we've had to empty the restaurant for the away team and the home team to come and eat after the game. But it could be changed, obviously, with talking to Kevin, and if we can change it around or we can have an empty box, I'm sure we could use that and open it. There's no reason why it can't be. If we can, we will. All right, it's all about making money for the club at the end of the day. I mean, me and Rob sorted out that side to come in here at half time. We put on roast potatoes and trying to pick it up, and we took it. I think the first one was 34, 58, 142 last Tuesday night in the end. It's building and building, but it takes time. Like no different here when on the field. It will take time before we get there. And like O'Gray said, Rome wasn't built in a day, unfortunately. Okay. Thanks.
Taking further or finishing off. The time of games, sort of Saturday or whenever. Someone said to me today that there's so many, not necessarily youngsters, but people who play football on a Saturday or a Sunday would come to the match but can't. Could you give that some thought? I know it's going to be difficult, it's not easy.
Okay, yeah, that's something that has been up for discussion with the board. I think I mentioned it. It's something that actually needs to be planned quite well in advance. We try to do it quite quickly with the Grimsby game, and unfortunately teams plan a long way ahead. Like we've sort of planned for sort of away trips quite a long way in advance, and that unfortunately the way it is. And the league aren't too happy actually with changing times of games. I know it happens with that. I think it's Accrington. They utilise this system quite a lot in the league, but the conference is a very, very different animal than the league, and you'd think they would probably be worse at their job, but they're actually a lot stronger, and I think Mel touched on that a little while ago. It is quite difficult to do, but certainly going forward I would like to see games, this is just my opinion, on Friday and Saturday nights. And when this was mentioned to me, I had numerous emails to say, well, what about the season ticket holders and all the rest of it that can't come on Friday and Saturday nights? Logistically, it is quite difficult to do, but certainly something up for discussion. And I do take your point completely. A lot of players do play, obviously, on Saturdays, and we've got to do target markets at the end of the day. I mean, it's all about who we can get through the gate in here. That is your main. I know everything kind of spins off it in the bars and commercially wise, but figures through the gate, and I said this at the press a couple of weeks back with David, and got pillarised a little bit forward, but we've always said that we were budgeting on and around 1800. That wasn't a joke. That's what we were doing, and when we hit below that, it's going to cause problems. And I understand the product up on the pitch so far this season hasn't been great. I accept all that, and people pay to see a product there, but it isn't a joke when I say that is what we've budgeted for. Now, if we start hitting below that, other things have to come into play. Further horrible and hard decisions have to be made. That's what we're doing. But we're certainly, to answer your point, we were looking at changing, but for the immediate future, we're sticking to the times we've got, because that's what unfortunately we have to do.
Kevin mentioned that ideally, in the longer term, we'd like to build the club around youth, and that's something obviously we understand in the summer. The previous overblown youth system was something that was unsustainable, and given the timing of the takeover, there wasn't really sufficient time to put an alternative system in place for this season. But I understood that there was a hope that working with football in the community, something would be built that would be nil or minimal cost to the club, which would start to deliver some of the benefits, community benefits as much as anything else, of having a youth system. Could the board report back on any progress that's been made in that regard?
Equal 10 days of his tenure at the football club, Paul Cox had several meetings with a group of people that were interested in working through TCC. And unfortunately, obviously, with Paul no longer being at the football club, there was discussions have been parked while we've had other kind of pressing more ideas. Going back to the youth, we came in here and had to make a very drastic decision very quickly. Unfortunately, actually, it wasn't our decision that we made, and I think that was also really important. The youth system was to be disbanded before we took ownership of the football club, and it was parked while the decision for us to come in, unfortunately, made us look quite silly when we walked in. The first thing we did, it's just unsustainable, the youth in that present format. Paul Devlin has come in and done a sterling piece of work with us, and that has been very, very successful, and quite a few of the lads that were involved in the previous academy programme are in that programme. What I would say on it, it is quite difficult. Once you kind of close something down, it's very difficult, John, to get it back up again in a short frame of mind. The funding involves quite a lot, but I know that I think it's like Justin Grinsell that we will be having conversation with pretty soon on that matter to try and get a more stable. It's all about what grants you can receive, because the club unfortunately just didn't. It was costing the club about £125,000 a year, and we just didn't have £125,000 to play on it. Unfortunately, it was a difficult decision. I respect that, but you've heard we've had to make very hard decisions in here, and that was the hardest, believe you me. But all we've heard, John, going forward, Paul's doing a great job, and we do have a lot of conversation with other people to go forward. I would like to see back in 18 months there a proper youth system back in place. I really would, but I can't promise.
Hi, Steve. You talked about the issue with the attendance dropping around to the 1600 mark, and that might lead to some more difficult decisions. And I guess, has there been even a contemplation about us having to become perhaps sort of semi-professional to help try and meet some of the cost challenges you face? And again, I don't know the answer to that, and I'm definitely not critical of what you've done. I totally understand why you've done it and fully support what you need to do in terms of making the club sustainable. But I guess it's difficult to see, given the challenges, if we are talking about carrying on with crowds of 1,1500 when we get into the really bad weather, what the consequences might be.
Yeah, it's a good question, and we've got no contemplation at the moment going part-time, but no one can see into the future. You know, at the moment we're averaging just over 1,800, so our average is okay, but the last few games, as you know, have gone down. So, you know, football's so unpredictable. Kevin could get us off to a great start, and ultimately we could get into a better position if we get our crowds back. We've got the FA Cup coming up. Looking at the optimistic side now, you know, we get past the 4th qualifying round, which we didn't last year. Get into the first round, you know, and the thing goes on. But Mel, bless her, she's the finance. She always looks at the lowest side of things, which she should do. And that's what we're basing it on. But you know, you never know in this game. But at the moment, part-time football's not been mentioned. Who knows what could happen in the future? But I very much doubt that. We want to stay full-time.
Yeah, my question's for the board. You've made no secret of the fact that you're seeking further investment, and we've heard time and time again that your new board members are welcome. Rumours circulate around the town, as you know, we all know, all the time. Can you shed any light on the fact, is there anybody in the wings? We keep hearing that we've got irons on the fire. Is there anybody in the wings? Are we close to further investment? Is there anybody out there?
No, the answer is no, actually, because Kelvin Thomas came in looking for investment under the jurisdiction of Thea's reign here, and really didn't come up with very much. There was 1 or 2 possibilities. You may have heard a few rumours recently. I think there's a few asset strippers out there would like to see us on the floor and buy this club for a song. That's not going to happen, because we're in a comfortable position and we're not wealthy by any stage. That's not to say if some very wealthy person came in to buy this club, we would certainly listen, because all our board members are fans after all. We just want to see Torquay United go further forward. We all want to see us back in the first division. That's all we're interested in. So if somebody came in with a big offer, we'd have to listen and may accept. But at the moment, there's no one on the sidelines.
And just to assure you, we actually haven't used any of our investment money yet. So the money we've all put in here still stays solid. Okay?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we always go on about attendances, but unfortunately, Kevin, the only way to get attendances to rise is to get a winning side out there. So, question to you, it's great to see you back here. Question to you, how are you going to motivate the players? Because at Lincoln, in the second half, they just look deflated and they need to be lifted back up. So how are you going to motivate them?
Well, what I've tried to hammer into the players this week is that I genuinely do not care what happened at Lincoln, and I don't care what happened at home against Boreham, and I don't really care about the 7-3. All I care about is what they do for me from Monday morning at 10 o'clock when I met them. And I'm hoping that what I can show them as a coach, as a player, and the pictures that I can paint for them of what they can achieve out there, and you know, and having 3,000 people watching and having their names sung, and the psychological effect that that can have on a player, especially, you know, you get good players that, I came to the game on Tuesday, the first time the ball goes out, there's that natural from the crowd, which spreads throughout the players like wildfire. You could see their body language, you know, I know what you're saying. But if you'd seen the players Monday morning, when I asked them to go and have an 11v11 out there that I played in, and I just asked them to go out there and enjoy football like they did when they were 10, and that was the reason that they were in it, because they loved the game. I was expecting a nice little kickabout, and they were tearing into each other because the new manager's here and they want to impress. So what I've got to do is keep that level of intensity up, get the place bouncing a little bit on Saturday. You know, I'm sure there'll be a good atmosphere, and then ride that wave. And it's amazing what happens in football. You know, winning, losing, it's a habit. All I've got to do is change their habit, make them see that they've got a choice, and their choice is to go out there and do everything they can to win, or go out there like they may have done in the past and realise that, oh, things aren't quite going our way, and caving in. And I never did that as a player, and the teams that I played in, certainly in the early days with Torquay and Paul Buckle, we could be 3-0 down, but we never gave up. We thought we were going to get something out of every game, and I'll install that mindset in these players. But yeah, you've got to give them the benefit of the doubt, let them show me what they're about, and then hopefully we get that winning habit, and all of a sudden, you know, I started the season at Bath and we won the first 6 games, and there were some games we probably didn't deserve to win, but we got to that point where we couldn't lose, and that's what I'm aiming for here.
Can I just go back 2 questions, back to the question of finance? And you said there's nobody out there externally. Has the board considered the option of a share issue to existing shareholders? I'm a fan and I'm a shareholder. I've only got a couple of £100, and I was allowed to double that about 10, 15 years ago. I realise there are a lot of legal costs in doing such a thing, but if there's nobody outside, what about inside?
That is an extremely good question, actually. Absolutely, we are looking at avenues for what you've just suggested there, alongside, we spoke briefly to the Trust. It's a very difficult process to go through, to be fair, and if there isn't a Sheikh Mohammed out there, which I don't believe there is actually, to be able to come into this football club and be able to move the football club on past what we can do, and certainly it's an option we would certainly look at. It's up to the board at the end of the day, but at the moment you have the owners of the football club. They're a stable bunch, take that from me. I understand scaremongering, I understand I've had all the comments about us going out of business in 2 weeks, I've had a lot. But the fact of the matter is, as a board, at this moment in time, you couldn't hope for any better, and take that from me. Now, going forward, you know, I'm not sure in 10 years' time we'll be here, I'm not sure in 2 years' time we'll be here, but I'll tell you now, it won't through a lack of trying, and in that time, the board will actively look for people to be able to further the football club on. But at this present moment in time, like I just told you, there isn't anybody out there in the wings. These are the people in charge of your football club, and believe me, like I told you, you've got excellent people. However, we're looking at all options available to us. That's not to scare anybody to think we can't pay the wages next month, but Kelvin Thomas came in here and couldn't find anybody but asset strippers. Then he found us. And I have to say, as a Torquay United fan, I'm very grateful to people along this table that saved this football club. But at the moment, we are where we are. We're doing our best. Whenever I've done any press here, I've always turned around and said it would never be easy, and I think that's been proved in the last 10 days. It really isn't easy to run a football club, but we are doing our best, and we need you lot to stick with us.
Oh yeah, would there really be no chance of reducing the admission prices? Because I hear a lot of people, you know, say it's obviously the way the matches are going at the moment. The teams, the squad losing. They, you know, I hate to say it myself, but they're saying it's like rubbish football. And maybe if it was, well, yeah, but maybe if it was lower, you know, the prices, the kids for £1, that sort of thing, maybe.
Can I just say, it's something we have discussed, you know, as a board. You know, we've looked at all sorts of options there. It's very difficult partway through a season to alter prices. It's particularly because we have a large number of season ticket holders. Those season ticket holders then are disadvantaged in some way. But it's something we will consider looking at, you know, as the year goes on. We have thought of whether we can integrate some of the actual stands in terms of their costs and simplify things. But a lot of the other clubs who are playing in the same league are charging as much, if not more than us, believe it or not. But I agree with you, the problem is, if we reduce the actual cost, will it actually get us more people in? Or is it just still the same fan base that turns up with us getting less revenue? It's a difficult one that I can't answer, none of us can answer, but we are talking about it.
I'm going to say, I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, I have been here 17 years, I've been ticket office and finance the last fair few years. It's all about finding the maximum revenue for the club. You know, I'm a fan. You know, I've been coming since I was 6 years old, and, you know, when people are like, oh, can we do it for a tenner? If we do it for a tenner, are we going to get another 2,000? I would like to be proved wrong, but I reckon if we were free entry, I don't think we'd fill this ground, sadly, at the moment. You know, if we drew Man U in a cup, I reckon we would sell out. But that is the Torquay public, and like Kevin said, we've got to build bridges with the community. And we've got to stay loyal to season ticket holders. You know, they've spent, you know, a lot of their money on season tickets. You know, hopefully throughout the season we'll be able to do promotions and try and maximise the revenue. But our goal is, you know, to find that, you know, point where we can maximise income and maximise supporters. And without a crystal ball, it is very, very hard to do.
I'll answer that about Mike Basin days. As I said earlier when I brought this up, I've spoken to Mike Basin today. I will be going to see him. Best way to describe it is the board intention, and in my intention, to run this club in the black. It hasn't been run in the black for the last few years. I think the accounts will say that, including last year's £500,000 loss, and that included a parachute payment from the league. So the club's been right out of its means for the last 4 or 5 years. Now, as I said, I could go on about the old regime. I'm not prepared to do that. But the fact of the matter is, this board can't afford to do that because we haven't got a Thea Bristow and a chequebook, and we've never said we did have it. What we have got is a bunch of people that are prepared to run the club in the correct manner. I've said it again, and I'll say, I will not write cheques that this club cannot cash. That has been done in the past in this. You've got a finance girl up there who just alluded to it at the start. You've got a board of directors now that's prepared to run within its means. That's the only way this club will survive, because like I said, unless it is sold to a Sheikh Mohammed, but that is a choice we got. Whether we're suffering out on the pitch there, fair enough. We had to slash the wage bill dramatically in here just to be able to get over the conference. You can't just run without your means anymore. They will kick you out, and that is what this club was facing back in June, being kicked out of the National League and going down to play in your Bideford, not lower than Bideford actually. I don't think Bucklands of the world. That's what we were facing. So we had to produce this to the league. We've done it. We're within our means at this moment in time. I know the football out on the field isn't brilliant, but that is where we are. Do we go around and carry on spending money we haven't got? Not a prayer. Not while I'm in charge of it, and not while these guys are in charge of it either.
I'm a season ticket holder, and if you had another 500 people through the door and they only paid £5, I wouldn't moan, because I think most of the season tickets love the club. And I think it's the key to this is getting more people through the door. And I just find it a bit startling that there's a lack of ideas about getting people through the door quickly. And that's where there's lacking in some expertise. And I'd be quite prepared to, I am a sales and marketing director, I'd be quite prepared to help. But if you want to put 500 on the crowd for Saturday, get 500 school children in the family stand. It sits there empty every day. How many people are there under the age of 21 here tonight?
Yeah, I can answer that actually, and if your help is, we'll go and we'll have a chat after the game. We've already actually started exactly what you just suggested there. Will be, the team will be here on Saturday with a lot of school children having a bit of a guard of honour for the teams. From what school is it, Kevin? Coombe Pafford children will be here. The players are starting going around schools. They're at school tomorrow. They were at school last week. We've given away plenty of free tickets for the kids. So what you're saying there is saying we're a bit short-sighted. We aren't actually, and I understand why you're saying it, but take it from me. It's a proactive thing. We give 90 tickets to the youth and community at this moment in time. Not a lot of them are actually taken up, ironically. But you're right in what you say. I would love to see this family stand filled up with children, even if it is coming in on a freebie situation. I think actually something that the Trust would, they had a future goals going where they were using numerous amounts of tickets, and that has dropped off quite dramatically this year. I think that'll be confirmed by the lads over there. So when you say about just getting kids up here, I understand where you're coming from, but actually at this present moment in time, that may be not as easy as you think. We're going to try. We said you'll see a load of school children here on Saturday to create atmosphere, and that's something Kevin and I and the board have spoken about in great length, is being able to re-engage this football club with the community, because it's so detached, it's unreal, and I accept that. And that's something we've got to do. But do you know, we've only been in charge for 4 months, and this alluded to a lot. Rome wasn't built in a day, and especially in the last 10 days, wow, yeah. Rome almost blew away, didn't it?
Food for thought. Within 20 minutes drive of this stadium, there's a population of between 200 and 250,000, believe it or not. When the likes of Wrexham, with a much smaller population, and Grimsby were struggling, their gates seem to be maintained around about 2,500 to 3,000. So any possibility of reductions for a lot of the locals within this radius of Torquay, I think is just such hard work. We just ain't going to get that sort of response from the crowd, even at the lowest price. You know, there's just got to be a winning situation out on the pitch before they're converted. It's as simple as that. But anyway, on to my question to Kevin. Your record in the disciplinary stakes were exemplary. We often see the odd silly booking for dissent, and a bad foul sometimes is an occupational hazard, especially with a defender. What will be your policy with reference to the discipline towards the players? Because a few key players, picking up stupid bookings can be quite costly in the long run. Thank you.
I don't get booked because I tend not to tackle anybody. And I've made an art of that. But yeah, I don't mind my players getting booked because they're going for a challenge and they're going in hard and they mistime it. That's part of the game. There's such thing in football, and I had a discussion with the FA on this, because I see myself as an honest person, and a psychologist came in and I told him that basically if somebody's going through on goal and you tell your player to bring him down and take a yellow card, I would probably do that. And then he spent 20 minutes telling me how I wasn't honest. So there's a certain, I don't know, paradox there where I want my players to be clever. I'm going to have to teach them, they're young kids, so I'm going to have to teach them how to manage games. And sometimes you have to take a booking for the greater good. They have to see that. If any of my players get booked for dissent, then they'll have an issue, because there's no time or place that gets you anywhere. Anybody on the sideline who's screaming and shouting, that's fine, because they can afford to get sent to the crowd, get sent into the stand if something's happened that they really feel they need to make a point of, but in a respectful way. I don't want anybody, any of my staff, effing and blinding at referees and linesmen. I referee. I run a Sunday a five-a-side league on a Sunday night, and I referee that. And I thought, being a professional, they'd show me no end of respect, and I get battered. So, it's a tough job. Just refereeing a five-a-side, I can see that from my experiences doing it. So there'll be no dissent, and if there is, they'll get disciplined. And I don't want, I want a clean team. But at the same time, you look at someone like Wayne Rooney. Would he be as good as what he can be if he didn't have that fire in him? So I'm not going to take things away from players, but I want a team that can think under pressure. I think the responsibility that I've given Angus will help him on that front. But all my players, I want them to be hard. I want them to want to win, but I want them to do it the right way. And so yeah, there'll be no. Well, there might be, but there won't be many players swearing at referees, and that's what we work towards in training. We had a game the other day, and Kenny refed it, and I asked him to make as many bad decisions as possible, and whether he meant to be or not, he was very good at that. And that's, they're the kind of things, as daft as it sounds. These, if you read Clive Woodward's book, Critical Non-Essentials, it's very important that if I can improve the team 1% by getting them to react when the whistle blows, as opposed to moaning at a referee because they thought it should have blown, then that will make the team better. And so if I can make all those little adjustments to make them that little bit better in each area, then eventually they'll become a good team.
You did play under a number of different managers here and a number of different styles of football. I must say, I think the style of football, if it can be referred to as that recently, is probably amongst the worst I've seen since as long as I can remember, actually. I'm just wondering what style of football you think that you will be adopting here.
Yeah, a winning style. I said in the press conference yesterday, I'd be very, very naive if I came in here and said I want to play total football, a la Eddie Howe. He did that at Bournemouth, and I've got huge respect for what he's done. But he never had to play away at Boreham Wood on a Tuesday night in the middle of February when there's no grass on the pitch. So I would love to play total football, but I think I'm going to need more than one plan. I'll be telling the players, I want to build these players' confidence up. Now, a 10-yard pass on Tuesday night when they were 2-0 down against Boreham became very difficult for them. You win 3 or 4 games in a row, and threading the ball through the eye of a needle to put your striker in becomes really easy all of a sudden. So what I'm going to do is take away a little bit of the pressure, give them a plan. you know, I don't ever want my players just hammering the ball up and hoping for the best. If you look at the players that we've got, you know, we've not got a Tim Sills who you could hammer the ball up to and he would make it look like a good one. You know, I've got to come up with a system that suits the players we've got at the moment to get the best out of them. I said it earlier, with all due respect, I don't mean this out of order, but I don't care what happened before I was here. That's the whole point that I'm here, is to try and change that. So, you know, I've had one-on-one meetings with the players. Some of them have alluded to that they didn't really enjoy it. You know, the bits that we've done on the pitch, the bits we've done in training, shows me that you've got technically good players here. There's no point in smashing the ball up when they want the ball on the floor. Now, when you've got the ball on the floor and you're passing it and you're moving it, you're going to make mistakes. And I've told them a few times already, I am more than happy for them to make mistakes if they're trying to do the right thing. I'll never have a go at a player if he's trying to do the right thing and he messes up. And I'm sure you lot have got enough knowledge of the game to know when someone's trying to do the right thing and not. You know, if one of my midfield players tries to nutmeg a guy on our own 18-yard box and give the ball away, then you might see something different from the manager. But yeah, I'm going to play in a style that I think suits the players. You know, I'm going to name the team tomorrow and we're going to work on that. But it's obviously not going to sink in for them over 2 days. So really all I've asked for them on Saturday is a reaction. And a reaction when they give the ball away, that they're going to work like it's an insult that somebody dare take the ball off them, and they're going to go and get it back, and then they're going to try and pass, and they're going to try and express themselves in the right areas and try and enjoy football again. There's going to be mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes as a manager, and I'll try and learn from them as soon as I can. The players are going to make mistakes, but as long as it's trying the right things that I've asked them to do, I haven't got a problem with that. And I think eventually when we get them going and build the confidence up, you'll see some nice football out there.
What you've got to realise, and we all realise in this room, is Torquay United draws off Torquay, Paignton and Brixham. An area which most likely has got about 55% old age pensioners, and half of those can't get off for tea on a Saturday afternoon at any rate. We've got to play good football, and as you know, if you play good football, the supporters will arrive. Those that go to Exeter or Plymouth from Totnes and around will come and watch a good football team. So at the end of the day, play good football, the supporters will turn up.
This is one for the board. Commercial. Could somebody please give us an update on the commercial department? I haven't seen the commercial manager recently. I actually don't know if we still have one. And you would hope that a proper commercial department with commercial manager would be following up people like the Savoury, whatever he's called.
Keeping the money in, and even Steve was out today earning us some sponsorship money and did a brilliant job there. So it still continues. The main sort of period of raising funds, you know, in the commercial side is over really. It's now just the top up that continues, and it's the same for most clubs. But we've got the ability to keep that going, and we will. So not an issue there. We still have a commercial manager, but unfortunately she's ill.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know funds are short and all that, but I'm really worried about the bottom of the steps at the Bristow's bench, the railings.
Yeah, because I understand what you're saying. For some reason, the rails were never brought right down to the steps at the end. The rails, when the old regime put those in, did cost a lot of money. And just to finish those off will cost quite a bit, but it is something that's been noted. There's been one or two comments about that. We've asked the stewards around there to make sure they help the elderly up and other people up, and we will continue to do that until we can actually get to a stage where we can actually put the new rails in. I think at the moment, I think we're asking the supporters a lot. So I think maybe that is something for the future, and something we will look at definitely in the future.
I have to say, it is also a design fault of Bristow's bench as well, because you walk along the bottom, you have to walk along that line, and you have to go up a step, down a step to get to the next bit. An absolute clear design fault. They can't really take the rails right down to the end, because you'd have to get blocked then, and you wouldn't be able to continue along. Yeah, it's difficult. It's just a real problem of design. I mean, there weren't even railings at first, and a number of us did moan to the old board and say, get those damn railings in, because people were just struggling even getting up and down.
Yeah, welcome back, Kevin. My question is to you about player recruitment. Is there any clubs that you've got a connection to that you've played for that you'll be looking to forge a partnership with? Got a couple of good lads from Bournemouth this season. It'd be good to see you get a couple more somewhere else. Maybe Lee at Bristol Rovers, you can send a few down. Also, there's a rumour that you've enlisted the help of John Milton. I just wondered if you could confirm or deny that, because he was brilliant for us under Buckle and brought some real good players in. So if you have, that's brilliant decision.
Milt's is a friend. Obviously, I knew him when he was at here the first time, and he was one of the first to call and offer to help if I ever needed it. So yeah, but it's funny, you know, there's been plenty that have done the same. Ewan rang me, O'Kane rang me the day I got the job, and told me that Eddie Howe has offered to do anything he can to help. You know, it's quite a close-knit community, football, and I think when other managers see a young manager coming in, you know, they want to. But it's also a very small world, football. Before I had my interview, I rang Lee Johnson at Barnsley. Now, I didn't know Lee Johnson, but football's a very small world, so it's very easy to get hold of somebody's number when you're in the game. If you can hold a conversation and you're respectful to these people, and they can see that you're ringing them for the right reasons in the right way, then it's quite easy to build relationships at clubs. So I know I'm only ever one phone call away from getting a player from virtually any club in the country, as long as I can prove to them that when they come here they're going to get looked after, they're going to get to play football the right way. But yeah, you know, I've got agents who I've known over the years that have been in touch. You know, obviously they want to plug players. You've got to be careful who you sign, because they want to throw anyone at you. But you know, it is a very, very small world, football. Colin Lee, you know, he's got links with Chelsea now, and we had a chat about that kind of thing. So it's really interesting, having just been a player and getting this, talking to these people about other players and the links that they've got is fascinating. The lads that are in there now, as I've said before, will get their chance, and it's up to them to take it. And if not, then we'll sit down and we'll see what the best value for money we could get if we went and looked elsewhere. But I can't stress enough, I want these lads to show me what they can do first, and if they get it right, then I won't need to go anywhere. I spoke to Gaz Laws today, and he tells me that Luke's hitting all his targets and looking pretty good, but obviously he's going to be out for a little while. And Courtney came to me on Tuesday and asked me if he was playing on Saturday despite not training for 3 weeks. And he rang me today and he wants a meeting tomorrow. So we'll sit and have a chat. I'm glad that he's keen. But like I said to him on Tuesday, you know, it's important that I set the right tone, and to do that, the players that have trained and showed me what they can do should get first go at it. And we'll see whether or not he's fit enough. He's going to train tomorrow, so we'll see if he's fit enough to be part of the squad. But you know, I know Courtney a little bit. I've played against him a few times, and you know, he's a bit of an animal in there when he gets going, and that kind of thing you need in a team. So he'll have a big part to play in us getting where we want to get.
Just a quick comment about the support we had from Plymouth Argyle fans last week, and other clubs as well. I'm just wondering whether anybody has made contact with Plymouth and Exeter and the others as well. There was somebody here who was one of the officials at Plymouth and offered help, and maybe he came to you as well, I don't know, and offered help in any sort of form on a commercial, with commercial ideas. And I just got the great feeling that they were all very supportive, and if we can cash in on any of their ideas or money raising ideas, all the better.
They were brilliant, and they were at the start of the year as well, Exeter City, by the gate receipt idea they had. I've spoken to Julian Tagg this morning actually, and his opposite down at Plymouth, a guy called Martin Starnes, and they've been absolutely fantastic. It's a real community feel actually, the three Devon clubs. I know they technically are rivals, but they're rallying around as we did for them back when they were struggling as well. Both of these clubs have remembered what Torquay did for them, and we are in a bit of a backdrop down here, aren't we, in Devon football. We've got to stick together as much as we can. I made a major point of thanking them on the pitch that night. I made contact with the Green Taverners actually, that brought a lot of people up from Plymouth. They enjoyed their night, and they raised a lot of money for the trust, I believe, going forward, and Torquay United Football Club, and they've been brilliant. I have spoken to the commercial manager down there, and I have a meeting to do with him. I think it's next Tuesday. He's going to come up and see me, and I was due to see Julian Tagg yesterday, but unfortunately I had to get away a bit quick to go to Portsmouth last night. I'm due to see him again on Friday to run my ideas. To answer your question, there's a lot we need to learn as a board, and me to talk into this microphone to be fair, a lot we need to do as a board to learn. We are new to this, and we are going to make mistakes. I've made 100 so far, I don't deny it, but I've also done a lot of good things, and we need to learn from people who've been in the game a little bit longer than us, so please bear with us. I know I don't do criticism brilliantly, and I accept it, but at the end of the day, we are new, and we've got to learn, but we are doing things, in my opinion, the right way, and we need to learn off clubs like Plymouth and Exeter, who are both forward-thinking clubs now, to be fair to them, especially Exeter City with their trust model.
Not meant to be a really controversial question, it might come across like that, but can you tell me, Steve, is your position a full-time position, or are you part-time? Do other clubs in the conference have chief executives? It's a question I've been asked. We had a director of football, which I don't think was necessary, and do we need a full-time chief executive?
In my opinion, yes. I've worked more than full-time since February. In fact, sort of my child thinks I'm robbing the place when I walk in, because I'm not there very often. The director of football, we've addressed that situation, as you well know, and Dean actually did resign his position. He certainly wasn't sacked, and I want to make that point abundantly clear. Does this club need a full-time chief executive? I think you'll have to ask the board that. I think they rely on me to do a fair lot. If you think that, for argument's sake, I'm on massive amounts of salary for that, then quite frankly that's disgraceful, because that has been labelled at me. An example being that Julian Tagg is on kind of 4 or 5 times, and Exeter City and Plymouth Argyle's on the same. I'm not interested in money. I came into this to try to help this football club. I think I've done that, and I'll continue to do that to the best of my ability. To say, does it need a full-time chief executive? There's a chairman there, and there's a board of directors there. They obviously believe they need a chief executive. And take it from me, I'm probably working better part of 70 odd hours a week, and I think they will confirm that. But probably best to ask the chairman, or the vice chairman now, by the way, which is Mervyn Bolson, whether they think that I'm worth it.
I'm not saying you're not worth it, Steve. It's just the question of, do other clubs throughout this division, do they all have chief executives? Probably do, yeah.
I really wouldn't be able to answer that, Dave. I don't know how they exist. Steve's working hard, has been from the very start. He's been invaluable. He does work very hard in all directions of the club. He went out and got some sponsorship today, which is not really in his job description, but he still did it. So, we're learning as we go on, and we may restructure a few things here and there, but Steve's an invaluable member of the football club, and I'll tell him that every day.
In the late Tony Boyce and Frank O'Farrell era, Abanda was a very popular run-out tune for the players. I would love to see the return of that. The older ones of us here, I think I'm class myself as one of the older ones now, with memories of those times, gates of 8,000 or 9,000 in this ground. Running out to Abanda was, had everything about Torquay United and success with it. It would be great to hear that as a run-out tune again.
I don't think I know Abanda, mate. I'm sorry. I've had a chat with a couple of people today, and we've got the playlist sorted. The players will run out to Heather Small, What Have We Done Today to Make You Feel Proud, on Saturday. There's another playlist. I sat with a couple of people and chatted about what's going to go on at 2ish, leading through. There's a reason for all the songs. We're not just randomly throwing them on there. They're all.
United, mate.
Yeah, we've not got that one either. But they're on there for a reason. I mean, I don't want to get too deep into it, but I'm talking psychology and all this kind of stuff. Seriously, it sounds daft, but that's the kind of effect that music can have, and so I'm not going to leave any stone unturned. So I've got a playlist. You can let me know what you think. I've had a suggestion from the board already that if you want a bander, you can sponsor it and we'll stick it on there. So yeah, later down the line we'll be open to suggestion, but for now we'll see how we go.
But thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a fantastic evening. I think Kevin, has just gone up in our estimation already before he's even taken to the field. Thanks, Kev. Brilliant. Thank you once again, and we'll have these at a fairly regular interval. Hopefully we'll be in a better position the next time we have one. And thank you once again, everybody, for coming tonight. And little Anne's at the back there, and the bar's still open. See you all on Saturday with 2 friends.